and that last video ended up rather abruptly because my phone started ringing, but I didn't want to throw it away. So here we go. So we start out looking at the, let's start out in the US, and the first thing we want to try and figure out is who should be the exporter of wheat and who should export tomatoes. So let's think about opportunity cost, which is defined as the value of the foregone alternative. And foregone is just a fancy word meaning the thing that you didn't do because you were doing something else. It's the thing you abandon. So there's only two things in this economy. There's wheat and tomatoes. So the cost of wheat is lost tomatoes, and the cost of tomatoes is lost wheat. So it's the value of the foregone alternative. All right, so in the US, if I wanted to make 100 pounds of wheat, it would cost me 50 pounds of tomatoes, lost tomatoes. So I can say that 100 wheat in the US costs, costs in brackets, I mean inverted commas, costs 50 tomatoes, 50 pounds of tomatoes. So one wheat costs 50 over 100 divided by 100, both sides by 100 tomatoes, which is a half a pound of tomatoes. So the opportunity cost of wheat in the US is a half a pound of tomatoes, and we could express that the other way too if we want to. Let's do that quickly. One tomato costs, well, if I made 50 pounds of tomatoes, I would sacrifice 100 pounds of wheat. So one pound of tomato costs 100 over 50, which is 2 wheat. And then we can perform that same operation in Mexico. So we've got 1 wheat. If I wanted to produce 1 pound of wheat, 1 wheat costs us 100 over 50, which is 2 pounds of tomatoes. And alternatively, I could say that 1 pound of tomatoes costs so 100. So we've got 50 over 100, which is half a pound of wheat. And this whole equal and opposite thing, I don't know why I do it, but it's a coincidence again. So all right, so these are the opportunity costs expressed either as the cost of wheat or the cost of tomatoes, and you can see that they are the reciprocal of each other. So if you know one, it's easy to find the other. And then the other thing I think it's worth mentioning is that if we calculate the slope of the PPC, so it's of course rise over run, so let's take the whole thing. We've got negative 100 over 50 to find the slope of this PPC. Maybe I'll write it inside because we're going to need the outside in a minute. So the slope is negative 2, so it's negative 100 divided by 50 in the US, and the slope here is negative 50 divided by 100, so that's negative a half. And I want you to notice, of course, that reminds you of the opportunity cost. In fact, this will always be the case, that the absolute value of the slope, and absolute value of the slope means you don't need the minus sign. The absolute value of the slope is the opportunity cost of the good on the horizontal axis. So if I flipped my axes around and I had wheat on the horizontal, it would be the opportunity cost of wheat. But we have tomatoes here, and you can see that the opportunity cost of tomatoes in the US is 2 wheat, and that's the absolute value of the slope. And then the opportunity cost of tomatoes in Mexico is £0.5 of wheat per pound of tomatoes, and that corresponds to the absolute value of the slope. So that turns out to be interesting. And the next thing to say, of course, is that since the US has a low opportunity cost of wheat, it's only £0.5 of tomatoes that must be sacrificed to produce a pound of wheat in the US, relative to Mexico, where they must sacrifice 2 pounds of tomatoes to produce 1 pound of wheat. We can conclude that the US should be the exporter of the wheat and will be the importer of tomatoes. And in the next video, we are going to draw a trade line. So we're going to figure out what's possible for these countries when they start trading with each other. And it's all going to be pretty wonderful in this very simple world. So see you in the next video.